So if you've just been in a relationship with someone suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, then your head probably feels like a shaken up snow globe, and your heart will feel like it's been trampled by a herd of elephants. But beyond the heartbreak, confusion and loss, what sort of long-term damage does the narcissist do? As if the snow globe and elephant stomped heart thing wasn't already enough. If you didn't know already, empathy is the #1 character trait that a narcissist looks for when they target people, and romantic partners in particular. It makes it much easier for them because the covert narcissist in particular will consistently use the tactic of playing the victim. So they primarily latch onto people whom they know will feel sorry for them and those who think that they can help, rescue or save them. Now, I've known for all of my adult life that I suffer from white knight syndrome, always thinking that I can ride in on my trusty steed and fix people. And since my extensive research of narcissistic behaviour and narcissistic personality disorder began, I've come to understand that I'm in part super empath, but that I also possess a wonderful array of minor character traits from the narcissistic spectrum too. I'm literally a narcissist's wet dream because they can detect and identify with the low-level narcissistic behaviours that I exhibit, but in tandem I also operate with a high level of people-pleasing qualities as well, which makes it a far more potent cocktail of character traits. And with all false modesty aside, I'm blessed with a creatively intellectual and curious mind, which again appeals to the narcissist's inflated sense of grandeur and status seeking. Whilst they in their own minds are always a cut above everybody else, the top dog so to speak, they also relish a challenge to begin with. After all, where's the sport in systematically breaking down and destroying someone who's inferior? So as a result, they're driven by moving in circles that aren't too far beneath their pompous perception of themselves. Now, whilst it is possible that they might slum it with low-level supply, which is easy to control and manipulate from time to time when needs must, higher levels of fuel can obviously be sourced from better quality people or opposition. Those who are of at least average intelligence, popularity, creativity, physical attraction and wealth. It also goes without saying that the better quality a partner is, the more satisfying and ego boosting the payoff is, both when they're idealising them and securing them as a partner, as well as when the narcissist ultimately later devalues and inevitably discards them like rubbish. So essentially, you can rest assured that if you've been anything more than a week-long affair or a one-night stand, then you're probably a bit of a catch. The fact of the matter is that the conceited narcissist wouldn't have wasted their valuable time on you if they didn't deem you worthy of it. That, unfortunately for you, is the end of the good news. Narcissists obviously can't easily manipulate and control people who aren't self-sacrificing or by their very nature empathic people pleasers. And it's incredibly difficult for them to use guilt as a manipulative tool against a person who is fundamentally shameless or arrogant enough to believe themselves to always be in the right. An empathic person, however, can much more readily be convinced by the narcissist that they're too sensitive, or that they're not trying hard enough to be supportive, accommodating, loving or giving, when it is actually the narcissist who is devaluing them. Empathic people, unlike narcissists who never question their own goodness, are usually introspective and very self-aware, and they will often question themselves and their motives. And it's this very thing that makes it very easy for the narcissist to then project all of their own faults and character flaws onto the emotionally astute empathic victim. The narcissist also actively engages in using gaslighting, the practice of lying and deception with the intent to confuse and make the empath then begin to question their very own version of reality or their recollection of events. So in essence, a narcissist actually weaponizes the empath's very own goodness against us. They continually to whittle away at our self-esteem and make us doubt ourselves, so much so that we become more and more codependent on the narcissist's affirmation and their validation. We also become incredibly attuned to their moods and as a result become entirely preoccupied with tiptoeing around them in order not to trigger one of their angry outbursts or yet another one of their silent punishments. The more time you spend around a narcissist, the more adept you become at predicting their behaviours, often feeling of palpable sense of foreboding that a storm is brewing and that conflict or silence is just around the corner. Once the narcissist inevitably tires of the relationship because it's lost the initial excitement that it had during the chase of the idealization phase, they will invariably first devalue and then ultimately discard us in the coldest and most confusing way imaginable. And it will be here that we, the empath, through a rewriting of history by our narcissistic partner, will be made to take the entirety of blame for the relationship ending in tatters. Undoubtedly, with the narcissists throwing their hands up, claiming to have been hurt, and once again the poor victim of yet more shoddy treatment, all while melodramatically claiming that it is they who deserved better. Speaking purely from my own personal experience, there are many insidious components to a relationship with a narcissist, but the most obvious and outwardly damaging part of the whole cycle is often the final discard. If it comes in the form of a prolonged silent treatment and ghosting, which more often than not it does, and certainly did in my case, it makes you feel humiliated and foolish. It's the ultimate wake-up call to how unemotionally attached a narcissist truly is. After almost 8 years, it was driven home to me that I had simply meant nothing at all and had absolutely no value as a person in my own right. I was nothing more than an interchangeable source of narcissistic supply, effectively a court jester and a cheerleader to make her feel better about the empty dark void which filled her soul, a pitch black abyss which she tried to run from and spent all of her time trying to avoid confronting. So the worst damage that a narcissist does to an empathic person is stealing their innocence. Up until this point in our life, we may have believed that all people were inherently and fundamentally good, and that love could melt even the iciest of hearts. And again, from personal experience, I remember spending much of the time I shared with my narcissistic abuser second-guessing myself and thinking that maybe if I just tried harder, loved her more demonstratively, and just kept plugging away, that she would eventually see how I felt about her and that she would eventually finally feel safe. The narcissist completely obliterates this wide-eyed innocence, leaving us, their traumatized victim, with deep-seated trust and betrayal issues. The prerequisite of being able to enter into a healthy and loving, intimate relationship is to be able to make ourselves emotionally vulnerable. The empathic person may now struggle with this. Unsurprisingly, as a result of the emotional trauma that we have suffered at the hands of the narcissist, we will inevitably build a protective wall around ourselves to keep the bad people out. But unfortunately for us, this will also keep out a lot of good people as well. Some of us may even opt for a life of solitude rather than risk giving up control and being abused by another narcissistic individual as a result of our trauma. Finding out that there are people out there who don't respond to love and kindness and who instead exploit others to make them feel better about themselves is one of life's hardest lessons of all. I really hope that perhaps you found this video useful and maybe even insightful. If you have, then I'd really appreciate it if you'd click like and subscribe. And what would be even better still would be if perhaps you'd leave your thoughts on the main way a narcissist deliberately hurts an empathic person. Or, if you're comfortable with it, maybe even share your own personal experiences in the comments section down below. I'll see you next time, and remember, together we will get through this.